Good morning, it's Saturday and welcome to Saba's Way of Life. And it is a stunning Saturday morning today and we're set to have a bit of a heat wave all week, so I'm in a very good mood. Let me just give you an update on the garden, which I'm going to be around for the next 2, 3, 4 hours, don't know, maybe more, in and out. There's a lot of things to do. And then I'm going to talk to you about the importance of writing things down. So let's get started. So first of all, just look at the wildlife garden. Now you might remember this was bare for those of you that have been following, and I'd just thrown these wildlife seeds from a packet and they weren't doing anything, and then suddenly when we had a bit more sun, everything has shot up. You can see here you've got poppies, but what's happened here is they've started to flower. It was shooting up and these are all about to flower, and these are these beautiful daisy-like looking flowers, and they are attracting the bees and they are attracting so much wildlife as well. Look here. Can you see? Look. It's just stunning, and you can throw this kind of thing. See where you've got space in the garden that's got sun shining at it. I mean, over here it's south facing that way, so it's getting plenty of sun and it's just using the space. You've got to encourage the bees and the birds and the squirrels in, because they're all part of your growing home grow ecosystem. It's a lot more than that as well. It's what it does to the heartstrings when you're out there. You do not feel you are in an environment in the city or in the suburbs. You feel you're in the middle of the country because you're completely immersed in nature and trying to emulate it the way it should be. You know, you hear the sounds. It's everything about the senses and beyond your senses, which is super sensorial. Something like this cannot be explained in words, it can only be felt, and many of you will know exactly what I mean if you've been in nature where you have mountains, where you have the sun and where you have birds and bees, and you can't explain that feeling within you. Actually, this probably is the most powerful medicine, and I'm not just saying that, you know, oh yes, we know. No, it is. I'm going to give you an example here. One of my hens who's been a little bit poorly, she's got scaly legs, which are from mites. I think they're from the red mites in the coop, and she's struggling. So all I did was take her out, just her on her own, and leave her in the garden in the sun, because she's not moving very much, she's tired. You do not realise, earlier on she was just sunbathing with her feathers out. This morning she was really struggling. Look at her, you can see now how she's just sat there with her feathers out in the sun. This is nature's medicine. This is going to heal her today. And what I decided to do is, because they don't get the sun in the coop until the afternoon, every day I'm going to take one hen out and let them run around in the sun while I am in the garden, if and when I'm in the garden. When I'm not there, I can't do that, because they'll eat everything. So I have to monitor what they're eating, and also, you know, a fox or something might come in. Even sometimes we get red kites flying above and they might come and catch them, so I have to be careful. Just to take you in the greenhouse. I can't even get in. You can see here, hang on, I'm waiting for this bottle gourd to flower. And there's all these kind of flowers here that want to come out and bloom. They need to, because that's where the fruit is then going to emanate from. But they're not. So I'm going to have to deal with this today, because it's a mess. I can't get in. And it's in amongst all the tomato plants and other things, and I'm going to have to do a little bit of research. Again, you know, I go on to I go on to Google or one of the search engines and just check and see how I need to handle bottle gourd. There's a brilliant website or a YouTube channel called Ali Raja. It's a Bangladeshi family who grow all their own vegetables in the UK, and they do a really, really good job. Isn't it lovely? You can hear all the neighbours next door. I'm not going to bother showing you everything in the garden because you've seen it all, but just suffice, it is looking stunning. I mean, really, this is the best it's going to get in the summer. I do want to show you the marigolds. It's just in bloom everywhere. These are the marigolds. These are African marigolds. I've always had marigolds that are very low on the ground, but these have just grown and they've just started to flower, and they are beautiful. Look at them. So you've got marigolds that are coming out. These are some more marigolds. These look a little bit different. They will flower, I'm sure. That one's broken. Don't know what happened there. And there's some more marigolds here which are just about to flower as well. So all of these little seeds that I've sown have grown into full-grown flowers, and we're really starting to enjoy. I'm encouraging all of you to get out in your garden and start planting and start growing. It isn't just about food growing. I don't think I can explain this to you in a way that you'll understand. It's more than that. You actually become wise. You become aware of so much more. There's time for reflection, introspection, and whatever you're doing in your everyday life, it's certainly helped me in the recent weeks. You take a step back, and nature has a way of undoing all the confusion and giving you very, very, very strong clarity. In fact, sometimes I wonder, because I wake up in the morning and I'm always clear-headed when I wake up, having slept early most nights and getting up early, and when I look at the garden, can't appreciate it, you can't appreciate it, but when I look at the garden, it's almost like the green is, you know, you're seeing clearly. When I'm going to talk about this in a minute in more detail, but when you see with clarity, everything is accentuated. So the green looks really green. The flowers, the orange flowers, look really sharp orange. You know, you can see every detail. You know, sometimes I look at the grass and I walk barefoot on the grass in the morning. There's a dew. Oh, it's just beautiful. There is a it's like now I'm looking at the kale, curly leaf kale, and I can see every part of the curl, every nook and cranny, even a couple of water drops on them. It's uncanny. That is a metaphor for being able to see with clarity. And be careful, because when we focus on one thing for too long, understand what I'm saying here. When we focus on one thing for too long, yes, your eyes start to go cross-eyed and blurry, and you're unable to see with clarity. You get blurred, your vision gets blurred. See the metaphor here? So the important thing is to step back from that, completely step back and step away and do something else. Immerse yourself in nature, where then clarity will reappear after a while, and you'll start to understand, and you will start to perceive what you were looking at with focus in a completely different way, and in the right way. I do this all the time. If you look at my YouTube bio, it says very clearly that I'm a generalist. I focus on one thing for a while, and then I come back and I observe and do something else, and I come back and focus. This is also synonymous with someone who's got a very creative mind, and it's how we were born. What happens is, once we're born, and we have this genius in us which can see things very clearly and read things very clearly, understand the metaphor, and then we go into the system, the education system, and our lateral thinking abilities disappear, and then we have this tunnel vision. It's unbelievable when you think about the metaphors, and the world is designed to make us believe that this is so clever. It's anything but clever. I have to tell you, it's anything but clever. Such a clever thing. People are so clever when they focus on one thing. And guess what? I've got 1 degree, 2 degrees, 3 degrees, 4 degrees. But the more degrees I have, the better. The thicker you are, the dumber you are. You can do X, Y, Z, but you can't think laterally. Quite often you don't even know how to deal with people because you're just so tunnel visioned. So those are the things, the ability to step back, observe, sit in silence. And I repeat this again and again. This is so powerful because when you do that, your entire perspective changes. And when your perspective changes, the choices you make change. You see things for what they are and your life changes. And we're here to fulfill what we are here to do, our creativity. We're here to experience and fulfill our genius within us, not somebody else's. You're not here to watch TV and follow a political movement or any movement. You're not here to slave for somebody else. This is where we are today. This is what we're trying to change. That's what truth, freedom and health is all about. Not the rubbish that some movements are made out to be that I was involved in. Very dangerous. So separate the knowledge that you gain from, look, you have to be very discerning with everything that you do. You have to be able to see, yes, that makes sense, that doesn't. And that only happens when you are in charge of your mind and your thoughts and you can see and think with absolute clarity. Something else that I want to show you is cooking the carrots and garlic in the garden. Well, I've added all the spices in. Can you see the spices? And there's an array of spices here. There's fenugreek, there's black seed, there's cumin, there's sauce, and I can't remember the name in it, fennel, and there's mustard, and there's chili, and there's turmeric, and all these things are in here. I've put them in here, and they're cooking in the sun also. And I've added a little bit of apple cider vinegar, just so that there's no fungus or anything grows. There's green chilies in there as well. That we've got a lot of sun coming up in the next few days. I'm going to buy these little lemons, not these big genetically modified ones, but tiny little lemons from an Indian greengrocers. And what I will do is then cook them out in salt. There's plenty of salt in there as well, Himalayan rock salt. I'll cook them out in the sun in a jar, and then I will add them to the mix. And eventually, when they've been cooking for a long time, I will add cold pressed sesame seed oil, and then they will carry on fermenting in that oil, and that takes a long time to make a good quality pickle, but then it can last 2, 3, 4 years. So I'm doing this for myself and for the entire family, and then we will jar it. So I'll share it with you. The other thing I want to share with you is the kitchen. You can see everything. It's always food, food, food. First of all, I want to show you these eggs. These are my hen's eggs. People, my neighbours and community give me boxes all the time because we share. But look at these tiny eggs that the hens have laid. 2 different hens have laid these tiny eggs, and all I can think of is that they're under some strain due to the mites that are in the coop. And I've been trying everything I can to limit the amount of mites there are there, but I can't think of any other reason. If anyone's got any ideas, let me know. They're so cute. I did actually crack one of these the other day, and it didn't have a yolk in, it just had the egg white. So it's great for those misinformed people who think it's a good idea just to have egg whites without the yolk. The other thing I want to show you is I've got lots of leftovers here, and one of the best things you can do with the leftovers is make what's known as a Spanish omelette. So I've got these all homegrown. Most of this is all homegrown. These are potatoes that are left over that I made with butter. You know, just we ate it with beautiful salt and butter. And over here I've got some peas, which are garden peas that are left over. Some onions that I had fried a couple of days ago, which we had with homemade burgers. These are from the shops. They're getting a little bit old, but I'm going to use these. I'm going to fry these all up, and then I'm going to add eggs, put some herbs and spices in. And it's a good way to use up your leftovers. Over here, I've got leftover kale. This is massaged kale, and I'll use that as well. So that's the way to do it. And over here, I want to show you, again, it doesn't look like very much, but my neighbour brought this in for me yesterday. She made a paratha, and I just want to show you how important community is. I've got a very good relationship with my community here, and I'm working very hard to build those relationships, because community is everything. It's what keeps you alive, keeps you happy, keeps you thriving. Very important for the children of the neighbourhood. And if the shit hits the fan, those people that are going to have the best chance of surviving it are those that have got communal living. They live it as a community, and they help each other and they back each other up. And it's a habit that you nurture that has been taken away from us by the system, and also by those who don't understand how to think from nature's perspective and nature's guidance. Do things that way. It's all very mechanical, very similar to a movement I was involved in for a while ago, and I'm going to talk to you about that. I'm going to do an entire playlist on that, because it's very important. It's a great example of how the system fails you by, in one way, giving you some wonderful elements of it, and in another way doing the absolute opposite. And this is where discernment is so key. So with my neighbour yesterday, I had gone there for a cup of tea, and I'd baked a cake and taken a cake over, and in a plate some slices, and her son came over. Where does this happen in the Western world these days? It doesn't. Her son had come over the same day in the afternoon with my plate, and he had put 3 pratas in it. Those of you who don't know what pratas is, look it up. It's basically like a chapati that's actually filled with something, and it's cooked in ghee. And she had made lentil parathas, so she must have had lentils left over, and then you make it as a paratha the next day. And I love it with yogurt and a little bit of pickle. It is delicious. I think I'm going to have the rest of that now and make the omelette. So that is my share today. Writing things down, that's the last thing I wanted to talk about. Now, this is really important, and I've talked about this a lot in the past, perhaps also in these YouTube videos, but also in the group that I used to run a year or so ago. If you are someone who procrastination is stagnation. It's when you can't think clearly and you stagnate, and it has very much to do with your environment. And it's a habit. It's the way your brain works, because it's got stuck. It's in a rut. Right. So one of the best ways, and it's a really powerful way, is so that your mind doesn't enslave you. Various ways that we have slavery of the mind. Write things down and do it the night before. So let me give you an example of what I do. And this happens to me too. We are all human. I'm just very good at noticing it and rectifying it very quickly. So what you do is, you know the things you have to do. You download, get it out of your mind, and put it all down in any order as it comes out on paper. And then what you do, each night you write down what you're going to do the next day. It doesn't mean that you're going to get it all done. But for example, I'm just going to give you a very light example. You know, if you have paperwork to do, then you write down exactly what part of that paperwork. I'm doing this, because you might have so much you can't handle it. I'm doing this. If you know, for example, I'm in the process of reigniting my love for French. I used to be fluent in the French language. I've forgotten, because it's not a habit. So I'm now going back on YouTube and found some wonderful channels where I can go back and practice the language. So I'm going to spend an hour a day on that, or at least half an hour every day. It's consistency that's key on that. I'm not repeating the same things. I'm consistent with different things that I do. It's not focusing just on one thing. You can immerse yourself in one thing for a period of time, but then take a step back, and your inner voice is going to tell you if something isn't right. You've got to listen to that inner voice. It's always the truth. And step back and then observe. The other thing is, if you don't trust anything, you'll never go in and try anything. You've got to go in and try and then know when to step back. Do not trust any third-party source, no matter who they are. Forget it. Otherwise, you're going to be going from one enslavement, one cult, which is the cult we live in, the matrix we live in, to another cult, which is what, well, I didn't do it, but I recognised it and stepped out. And now I'm going to share that with everyone. Very important. So write different things down. So for example, I've written down, I will see my parents. I know it's simple, but write it down. I will see my parents. I will cook this. I will spend X amount of time in the garden. I will do 45 minutes of French on this channel. I have to clean the camper van, for example. I have to clean XYZ in the camper van. I have to get the road tax on this. A, B, write them all down. And then as you do them, tick them off. And that feeling, and that will help you dissipate the procrastination, because you'll start doing what you can in that day. And it's varied, so you're using different parts of your mind. And, you know, for me, learning the language is a creative part of my mind. Going out and nurturing the plants or doing gardening is a very creative skill to have. Looking after my hen, a very creative skill to have. And you're doing good works. Going to see my parents and looking after them, which I do, is good works. Of course, nothing ever goes through my day without prayer, and I pray every day in my way. Never miss that. This is not necessarily religion. This is just knowing that there is a mind behind the universe that listens, and you pray. I can talk about how I do this another time. So these are very, very important daily things to be aware of. Write these things down. Get a pen. I write with an old ink pen now. I've bought a bottle of ink. We used to write with ink pens when we were school. We were taught to write with ink pens. And I write with an ink pen. And I've explained to you, not type, write. The actual act of writing and your hand movement, the messages that come from the brain through your arms and hands onto paper, is a very, very different meaning and effect than typing something into a computer. Again, it's not something I can explain, but you'll know. You are not an automaton. You are a human being. So behave in the traditional way like you used to as a human being. Do not become part of this culture that we live in, or another cult which breeds automatons, even though they say the opposite. Always look, you can say what you like, but what's in front of you, that doesn't lie, does it? All right, have a lovely day, and I think I'm going to have something to eat now before heading back into the garden.